All right. Welcome to this week's episode of Weirdos Like Me. I am your chief weirdo, Dr. Shannon. Today, we're going to talk about decluttering. Okay. Now, decluttering is more than just get organized. We are impacted by the environment that we live in. Your home and your environment is an extension of your energy field. So it's super important to make sure that the environment that you're creating yourself is a reflection of how you want your internal energy field to be, because you're going to mirror what your environment is, if that makes sense. So clutter makes you feel stuck. You experience stress, helplessness, overwhelm. When our homes and when our workplaces and even our cars, for some people, if they're disorganized, you feel stuck and stressed out. Clutter makes you waste time. When things are scattered everywhere, you spend your valuable time trying to find things. Who has time to find things on a reoccurring basis? Knowing that everything has its home and a place to live, quote unquote, live, allows me to focus my energy on things that are more important than playing Where's Waldo with every object in my home. Clutter also drains your mental energy. Your brain and your nervous system constantly takes everything in around you. It's sensing everything that's happening in your environment, and it figures out what to do with that information. Therefore, the more that's going on in your environment, i.e. disorganization and clutter, the more mental energy that you're wasting deciphering all of these things in your field, rather than harnessing that energy and using it towards things that are going to help you be productive in ways that matter. So ultimately, what do we do about it, right? On a previous episode, we talked about digital minimalism and decluttering your digital life, which is super, super important. But today we're going to focus on minimizing and decluttering the actual physical things, the possessions that you have in your life, in your physical environment. So what we own tells a story about, one, who we are as a person, and two, who we want to be. Okay. The more that you understand who you actually are, the more you'll realize that you don't need to hang on to unnecessary things that don't serve your authentic self, even if they used to serve it. So that's also a very, very important point to make, is there may be a time when this object or this thing served you, but you may not need it anymore. And it's okay to let that go. So some of the most common rationales as to why we keep things that we no longer need are, well, let me say it this way. I'm going to go through a few of them. Okay. So first and foremost, the number one thing we tell ourselves, I might need this one day. Do you? Do you though? Will you need it one day? Have you used this within the last year? If you haven't used it, like most people say 6 months, I'll even go for a year, right? If you have not used it within the last year, and if you can easily obtain it again in the event that it randomly happens to show up in your life that you will need it, then you don't need to hold on to it. All right. Everything that we hold on to costs us in some way. Either it's costing us in money to store it, like if you have so many things that you actually are paying for a storage unit to store things, you're paying physical money for that, or it's costing you in time to maintain it and to clean it, because the more things you have out, one, the least likely you are to actually really get things clean, because it's hard if you have to like take 1,000 knickknacks and things down and dust everything. So you're probably not cleaning it very well, or you are, and you're spending so much extra time trying to clean and organize when you just don't have to. Or it's costing you mental health by looking at a mess and clutter every day and giving your nervous system subconscious stress signals all day, every day that you might not even be aware of. Now, the second thing that makes it really hard to declutter sometimes is if something was given to us as a gift. Gifts are great, and we obviously should be very appreciative for them. But ultimately, I don't think anybody who gifts you something wants their gift to end up being a burden for you. Gifts should be something that you enjoy. And if it's not serving that purpose, I don't think that the person who gifted it to you is going to be mad that you repurposed it or gave it to somebody else who can enjoy it. And if they are, then I don't know, that's a topic for another episode. But if people are really genuinely showing up in your life, they should want good things for you. And if something is not serving you anymore, you shouldn't have to hold on to it just to appease somebody else. And another way to do this, and this takes some time, but let your friends and your family know that you prefer experiential things for gifts over objects, if that's true for you, right? Like, I'm not saying everybody has to prefer this, but if you are on a journey to declutter and minimize your physical possessions, you can say things like, that you would prefer getting, I don't know, tickets to shows or gift cards for cool, fun restaurants and things to do in your area, or, a massage or a pedicure, things that you can go do and experience versus getting a physical object. I honestly think that sometimes people buy physical objects as gifts because they just don't know what else to get for people. So if you let people know the things you like to do, then they would much rather buy you something you're going to like versus a physical object that you're not going to necessarily be able to use. Another thing that makes it really hard to declutter sometimes is if you have things that represent who you used to be. All right. So we touched on this a little bit earlier, but here we go. We'll dive into it a little bit more now. Things may have served you and your authentic self 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago. But what we have to do when we're working on this journey now is ask ourselves, is it serving me today? Saving, sentimental things from, I don't know, old boyfriends, girlfriends, friends, people in our past. Is that really serving you right now? Because if it's not, let it go. Okay. Sometimes you have to hold on to things for a certain period of time to allow healing to take place. But once that part of your life is over, let it go. You're not supposed to be the same person that you were 10 years ago. If you are the same person, then that means you're not growing and evolving. So embrace that. Let the past go. If it doesn't serve you now, but it did 5 years ago, it's not bad to get rid of it and move on. You just need to embrace your current authentic self. So, like, for example, for me, I saved all of my jeans that I had pre-pregnancy, pre-Bexley, and somehow thought that I was going to wear them again. So I had them. And then the wonderful world of maternity jeans showed up in my life. And after I wore those and I went to go try back on my old jeans, I was like, dude, there's literally no way I'm ever going to wear these things again. And I don't know how I wore them before, because I was like, these are very restrictive and I can't even move. So I had this idea in my head that I was going to go back and wear those clothes. And then one day I was like, no, I'm not that person anymore. I am now a person who values comfort and being able to move and do things over the way these jeans looked, which, by the way, if you guys don't know, that they make very comfortable jeans that look like jeans, but they're really not. They're more like jeggings and whatever. Like, they do. So why are you torturing yourself? But anyway, okay, I digress. Way off topic there. So once I decided that it was okay that I wasn't that person anymore who wore those jeans, I donated them. Let somebody else use them who actually can use them, right? So, and that's not just clothes, right? That's anything, but the story works for that one. Another thing that I hear people say a lot is, well, this might be worth money one day, so I don't want to get rid of it. Like, I'm going to sell it eventually and make money off of it. The ultimate question there is, will you actually sell it though? Like, why not just sell it now and use the money for something that you would benefit from and enjoy right now, versus saying, I'm going to save this and sell it 10 years from now. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there are certain things that you might actually want to do that for, but for the vast majority of things, holding on to them several more years isn't going to actually increase the value. You might as well sell it now and do something with that money that you can enjoy now. There's another category of things where if you spent a lot of money on something, you might be a little hesitant to get rid of it, right? Just because you feel guilty about it. And you're like, man, I spent so much on this. Like, I just can't get rid of it. It costs a lot of money. And that's okay. But here's the thing, the money's already spent. You're not going to get it back by that object just sitting there, being unused, collecting dust. Either donate it to somebody who can use it and who would be grateful for it, or you can resell it and get some of the money back and put it towards something that you will use. Not only can you regain some monetary value from it, but you're going to also help avoid feelings of guilt, because I'm willing to bet that if you're not wanting to get rid of something because it was expensive, you're probably looking at it every day and then you're getting an instant sense of guilt as to, oh my gosh, I spent so much money on it. Why is it sitting there? So, you're going to help ultimately keep feelings of guilt away by doing something with it, donating it or selling it too. So, all right, here's a big one. Sentimental items. Honestly, I'm not a hugely sentimental person when it comes to things, right? Like, I don't attach emotions and memories to most possessions, but that's also because my love language is not gifts. I attach emotions and memories to experiences. So holding on to an item for solely sentimental reasons isn't even a struggle in my playbook, but I do know that it is for a lot of people. So I want to be sure that I mention this here. So I like to think about it this way. If everything is important, then nothing is important. Okay. So I don't know, that just makes sense, right? If everything has sentimental value, then all of a sudden none of it does. It's okay to keep a few things because they mean a lot to you. But if you attach your emotions to every object and everything that someone has ever given you, then are any of those items really and truly sentimental? Isn't that kind of the opposite of sentiment, if you can just kind of like attach it to everything? So when you're decluttering and you come across sentimental items, see if there's a way to keep the essence of those items without necessarily needing to occupy the space that they take up. I hope that makes sense. So here, let me give an example and see if this works better. Okay, let's say you have a bunch of baby clothes from your newborn, and your newborn is now 30 years old and you still have all these baby clothes, right? And you just cannot part with them because it reminds you of when they were this cute little newborn and you just don't want to part with them, okay? So instead of keeping bins and bins of baby clothes for your 30-year-old and they're just sitting there not getting used, why don't you pick out the 10 to 15 most sentimental clothing items out of the box? Okay, so like go through it, say, okay, these 10 outfits, like, oh, I remember them in this, and find 10 to 15 of them. Donate the rest to a current newborn who can use the clothing, and mom, dad would be so appreciative for that. I know I was when people helped give Bexley clothing that they had used. It was so amazing. So give the rest to a baby who can currently use it. And then take those outfits and see if you get somebody to make a quilt out of them or a blanket, because now not only have you given something to somebody who can use it and is going to be grateful for it, you have decluttered and saved yourself space, time, energy, and cleaning and rotting of whatever baby clothes do for decades. And you now have a functional item that you can use and still remember and have all of those memories of when your kid was a newborn in the form of a blanket, right? Like, to me, that's super, super cool. You can do something similar with a lot of old photos or framed photos and things of that nature. If you don't necessarily want them out displayed everywhere, then can you digitize those? Let them play on a loop in a digital frame. That way you're saving the essence of the photos and you can still see all of those, but you don't necessarily have to keep storing boxes or photo frames, or have your walls covered in photos that are fading and things like that, right? So you're still keeping the essence of the memories, but still decluttering. Now, another category of things that make it hard to declutter sometimes, things that you feel are wasteful to get rid of. And we all have things like that. So if you're keeping something that you're not using, nobody else can use it either. So what's actually more wasteful? Giving it away to somebody who can use it, or keeping it so nobody can use it? So to me, I want whatever items I have to be used in the way that they're meant to be used in. I don't even know if that sentence made sense, but if I can't use it, then I want somebody else to be able to benefit from it. And that makes me feel better than it just sitting there collecting dust and being another thing I have to store, another thing I have to clean. Now, when you're starting on this journey, the hardest part a lot of times is just getting started. So there are some things you need to do to set yourself up for success. Number one, have a plan. All right. You can't just haphazardly start decluttering things, especially if you have a lot of items to start with, and expect to not get frustrated in the process. So you should schedule each area that you want to declutter, like literally schedule it. Get a calendar and say, this weekend, we're going to tackle the bedroom. Next weekend, we're going to tackle the kitchen. The weekend after that, we're going to do the garage. Whatever your time frame looks like, it's fine, but make a schedule and then further break that schedule down into areas of the room. So if you're doing your bedroom, maybe say, okay, in the morning, we're going to start with the dressers, then we're going to move on to the closet, then we're going to go into the end tables. You can, again, go in whatever order you want, but section it off so that way you can start, stop, take breaks. If you get interrupted or distracted, you're not totally thrown off of your rhythm and then lose momentum. Okay. So just like little chunks. Now, this was something that I personally did. There's this whole thing that's, I think if I remember correctly, there's like a 3-pile method or a 4-pile method. I haven't seen this anywhere, but I made a 5-pile method when I started doing this kind of stuff. Okay. And I'll get to what the piles are in a second, but I forgot to mention earlier, what you want to do is whatever section you're clearing out, you need to take everything out of that. Okay. Like legitimately clear it out. Like, don't look at your closet. I'm looking at my closet right now, which is why I turned to look. Don't look at your closet and then just start pulling little random things. Be like, I think I'm going to keep that. I think I might get rid of that, blah, blah, blah. No, like take it all out. And then you're going to make 5 piles. All right. And they're going to be labeled keep. It's number 1. Maybe is number 2. Sell number 3. Donate number 4, and trash number 5. All right. Now the maybe pile is kind of like my own personal thing. And this is what kept me going and not getting hung up on certain items. So again, keep, maybe, sell, donate, trash. All right. And as you take things out, it goes in one of those 5 piles. Don't keep anything in there. Nothing stays in the closet. All right. So you're going to either immediately say, yes, I'm keeping this. If there's a little hesitation, don't sit there and dwell on it. Just put it in the maybe pile. All right. Because ultimately what you're going to do is at the end, once you've cleared everything out and you can physically see the piles, you can go back through that maybe pile and things might be a little bit more clear, because when you see what you're actually keeping, you can then look at the maybe pile and say, do I really need this now? Because I didn't keep anything that's going to, let me do X, Y, Z or whatever. Or you might be like, dude, I just kept 3 of those. Like, I'm getting rid of this. I don't need this anymore. So same thing. Don't get hung up. Just put it in the maybe pile. All right. Here's another thing. The donate pile. For the love of all things weirdos like me, do not take that pile and put it in a closet or put it in your garage and then let it sit there for weeks. Take the stuff that you put in that donate pile and donate it that day. At the very least, donate it the next day. Whatever it is, build the time to physically drive to go donate whatever it is into your decluttering schedule. Get it out of your house. Otherwise, you're just going to end up having spent all that time to just create a new pile that's going to sit there in your house, and you're ultimately not going to end up decluttering anything. Okay. So now once you're done doing the physical process of decluttering, you have to have systems in place to maintain this so that you don't end up with piles upon piles upon piles just a few weeks after your massive win, which is so easy to do. Okay. Like, it is so easy to get out of the rhythm. So create some systems. An example of one of these systems is the 1 in, 1 out rule. If you get something new, then you either sell, donate, or trash, but usually sell or donate one similar item in its place. Okay. So if you're getting something in, you're taking something out. That way you're replacing, you're not just getting more things. I actually subscribe to this for the most part. It keeps the number of things I have pretty consistent and stable. And it makes me think about if I really, really, truly need something. So I ask myself, before I get something, is this going to serve a better purpose than something I already have? If the answer is yes, then I can get it and I will donate or sell that other thing that I'm replacing. Because honestly, if this new thing that's coming in is going to make my life easier than the old thing, why would I ever go back to the old thing? Doesn't make sense, right? Like I'm never going to choose to go back to something harder than the new, easier thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of it. And then I don't have to worry about it anymore. Now, if I tell myself, it's really not going to help make my life easier, and it doesn't serve a whole new purpose that makes my life easier, I will second guess, do I actually really need that or not? So this has really helped me keep things balanced in that sense. Also, make sure every object in your house has a home, air quotes, if you're watching, home, right? I do not leave anything just out on my countertops, on my dressers, on my desk. Once you start leaving like random objects just out, it's easy for it to become out of control. And then before you know it, you'll just end up not even being able to see the top of the counter space. So I avoid this by making sure that everything has an actual place to go, even if that means that I have a basket on my countertop for the things to go in. For example, I take my essential nutrient supplements every day. So does Bexley. So we have quite a few supplement bottles that we take, and we use them daily, right? So I'm not going to put them away because for me, out of sight, out of mind. Like I literally need to see my supplements every day so I remember to take them. However, I don't want the, several bottles just chilling randomly on the kitchen counter, because then it starts getting messy and things get spread everywhere. So I have one basket that they all go in, and it just sits on my counter. Now, it reminds me every day that I need to take them because I see them. But once I use it, I put it back in there, and then everything stays contained, and I have a cute little basket on my counter. So to me, it's a win-win, right? I use a similar strategy for those loose papers or, mail or things that I get that I don't really have a chance to file away yet. So I have a basket on my desk. Here is the basket, which currently just has an integrator in it, because I actually filed it away. You can see it. Anyway, so I have a basket on my desk that I put all loose papers in before getting to file them away. Because like ultimately, in reality, I know when I come home at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit there and file every piece of paper that I brought home with me. So I put them in there. And then at the end of the week, I go through it, figure out what I need to trash, what I need to file, what I need to scan, things like that. And I don't ever let it get outside of that basket, because once it fills up, I know I need to go through it, and it keeps it kind of contained and manageable. And there also aren't paper piles, goodness gracious, piles of papers all over my house. And if I'm ever looking for a piece of paper, I know exactly where it is because I don't put papers anywhere else. Like it's going to be in this basket. And then it keeps it all organized and aesthetically pleasing as well, which is another plus. So decluttering will help you feel less stuck. It's going to help relieve stress in your brain, stress in your nervous system. It's going to save you wasted time trying to find things. And ultimately, that's going to lead to less energy wasting and more productivity. Now, you want to start small, and then you're going to gain incredible momentum that's going to serve you over time. And disclaimer, sometimes it's a little addicting. I feel like now, like once I started my decluttering journey, I just want to declutter everything now. It's a little addictive, might be a problem. But anyway, like I said, start small, you're going to gain momentum. And I am so excited to hear what you guys think about this and the changes that you might start seeing if you start the decluttering journey in your life. All right. So if you're not already in the Weirdos Like Me Facebook group, make sure you hop in and join so we can continue the conversation. And if you like what you're seeing and hearing, please subscribe to the channel, subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, so that we can continue this podcast. And other than that, I am Dr. Shannon signing off for this week's episode of Weirdos Like Me, and I will see you guys on the next one.